Look, I'm as big a Jon Jones fan as anybody, and I've always defended he's not afraid of Tom. He's willing to fight anybody. It's hard to not fall into that narrative here, though. You know, like, to me, like, fighting in the White House, like, that doesn't do it. But maybe I'm a different person. You know, maybe everybody looks at it different. For me, like, you tell me they're going to have a fight at the White House, like, cool. All right, like, it'd be cool to do it. If not, whatever. Like, a fight's a fight.
I do believe that I'm the best heavyweight in the world. It doesn't mean I can stop and celebrate what I've done. I've got a lot of work to do. I want to be as active as possible moving forward as well. So I'm not just working for the next fight, I'm working for the next 5 fights. And I have been doing that last year.
Tom Aspinall's climb to the top of the UFC heavyweight division was quick, dominant, and well-deserved. But he admits that it seemed unfinished. After defeating Sergey Pavlovich to earn the interim title and defending it against Curtis Blades, Aspinall looked like a champion. But Jon Jones cast a shadow over every performance. Aspinall has never refuted it. He phrased it this way: "I would have rather taken it from Jon Jones, the undisputed champion." When the UFC ultimately stripped Jones of his title and named Aspinall the official, he did not celebrate after becoming champion. He claimed it felt more like a relief. There was no defining moment, no unification, and no trademark victory over the reigning great. The belt was just handed to him, and he could tell it didn't feel right.
And say, no, you're not going to take this. And do you know what Jon Jones did? You have it. I don't want to fight. You can have it. This is unbelievable. The greatest of all time. What a load of shit. I'm sorry. Never going to call that him the GOAT. Ever again. Because being the greatest of all time is not just about winning. And that's what Jon Jones doesn't understand. It's about how you conduct yourself throughout the whole of your career. Are you willing to fight the biggest challenges, the biggest tests, go in there and...
Now Jon Jones is back. After a few days of silence and a public retirement in June, the former champion rejoined the USADA testing pool, indicating a possible return in 2026. Not just any return. Jones is apparently being prepared for a confrontation in the White House. Yes, the White House is involved in a UFC card being prepared for Independence Day, July 4th, with the help of former President Donald Trump and Dana White. The concept sounds bizarre, but the fight possibilities are serious. Michael Bisping publicly recommended Jones versus Aspinall as the card's main event. Jones spotted the proposal and answered with a 3-word message: "I like it."
UFC White House is crazy, dude. How's that even a thing? Is that allowed? Like, how is Donald even allowed to do that? It'd be kind of gangster, though. Chandler versus McGregor. It'd be kind of gangster. Aspinall, Jon Jones wants to fight on it. Classic. Back in the testing pool after 2 weeks. Bro is a troll and a half. He's not having his title back. That just can't be happening. All the ground trip.
That alone would have caused shockwaves. But Jones didn't stop there. He made a direct, threatening communication to Aspinall. "I will make you beg within the octagon." The statements seemed like a deliberate warning. Jones shown genuine public interest in Aspinall for the first time in months, just as the Brit had finally moved on. Aspinall has stated unequivocally that becoming uncontested was not the fairy tale ending he envisioned. He stated in an interview with Adam Catadral that it felt more like closure than victory. "I felt I was a champion anyway. I understand I was the interim champion, but I didn't feel relieved, right? That's finished. I can fight again. Don't get me wrong, it's fantastic to be the unquestioned champion. I would have liked to take it from Jon Jones, the undisputed champion, though."
He's like the longest running heavyweight champion in the history of the UFC, isn't he? But he's only like he hasn't fought anyone. I don't think it's going to happen, you know. I think Jon gets a lot of money for being champion. I think the sponsors and that are paying him a fortune, and I think he's just dragging along, keeping the belt as long as possible because it's worth that much money to him. I mean, Jon's often struggled with tall people who are good boxers. I imagine he'd probably, if he did fight him, he would.
It wasn't all chatter. Aspinall had pursued the fight fiercely. He stepped in on short notice to fight Pavlovich when Jones withdrew from his scheduled fight with Miocic due to injury in late 2023. He dispatched the dangerous Russian striker with ease and then defended the interim belt convincingly. Every move he made was designed to unite the titles, but Jones did not reciprocate. After ultimately returning and defeating Stipe Miocic, Jones seems uninterested in fighting Aspinall. Negotiations lingered on. Dana White offered ambiguous assurances. The fight never transpired.
You're a sprinter and you take PEDs. You become faster than people who are not taking PEDs and you win a race. That's okay. You're a cheat, you've won, they'll take your title off you or whatever. That's fine. If your job is to hurt another person, physically hurt another person, which could potentially redirect the rest of their life post-fighting, you're an absolute piece of shit and you should never be able to fight again if you have any PED.
Then came Jones' sudden retirement last month. There was no fight, no announcement, just a quiet exit followed by a ceremonial title handover. To Aspinall during a news conference in Baku, the fans suffered a loss. It was a disappointment for Aspinall, and it appeared to be the end of the road for Jones. The timing of Jones' comeback has sparked controversy. Matt Brown, a UFC veteran, did not mince words when he said Jones' homecoming appeared strangely convenient. Brown openly stated that Jones appeared to be ducking, implying that he waited until Aspinall signed his next fight before suddenly becoming active again. That critique reflects fan sentiment on forums and social media. One post summed it up well. Jones' retirement came just after Aspinall signed for another bout. It's convenient, to say the least.
John Jones. I'll be honest, Tom's a friend. I love Tom. He's one of the coolest dudes in the whole of MMA. Even though Jones is getting old, I just can't pick against John Jones. I've been watching John Jones, as I say.
That is the portion that has many people wondering Jones' motives. If he genuinely wanted to fight Aspinall, he had options. The UFC brass was open to it. Aspinall was more than willing. However, now that the Brit has moved on to other names such as Cyril Gane, Alexander Volkov, and potentially Derek Lewis following the upcoming Nashville event, Jones has resurfaced, dropping threats and intriguing White House fight cards.
The star Aspinall would have been if we just would have got that fight over with right away. Think of the star Ngannou still would have been for this company if you just would have had that fight and moved it on. And then you have an epic rivalry between those two, Aspinall and Ngannou. Like the years and years of amazing heavyweight fights could have been happening if John Jones just wasn't a petulant child, and if the UFC wasn't just the, oh no, it's fine, he's just finding himself, like just so annoying. And
yet the dynamic has shifted. Aspinall is no longer the interim figure seeking prominence. He's the one holding the belt. Jones, for the first time in more than a decade, is outside the cage, attempting to claw back in. He must pass drug testing processes, recover full eligibility, and persuade the UFC to match him with the man he has previously avoided. The narrative is flipped. Aspinall no longer requires Jones to certify his championship, at least not formally. But the reality is more difficult to ignore. Both fighters still have unfinished business with one another.
Is there a fighter in MMA or the UFC that you just find absolutely insufferable? Because for me, it's John Jones, and there is no close second. John Jones defended his heavyweight title against a retired 42-year-old Stipe Miocic back in November. Ever since then, John has been saying, what has Tom Aspinall done to deserve to fight me? You know, besides Tom being the interim champ and having a defense with that belt, John has just found every possible way to not fight Tom, even retire.
John Jones is unquestionably one of the most dominant fighters in MMA history. However, the events of the previous year have had an impact on his legacy. Many believe that, by quitting without facing Aspinall, he missed the final test of his heavyweight career. Some wonder if he was ever sincerely eager in defending his title against a young, prime athletic champion with momentum. Others say it was purely a timing issue. Injuries, negotiations, and business decisions all occur in an unfavorable order. In any case, it is widely assumed that Jones avoided the one guy capable of defeating him.
Is there a fighter in MMA or the UFC that you just find absolutely insufferable? Because for me, it's John Jones, and there is no close second. John Jones defended his heavyweight title against a retired 42-year-old Stipe Miocic back in November. Ever since then, John has been saying, what has Tom Aspinall done to deserve to fight me? You know, besides Tom being the interim champ and having a defense with that belt, John has just found every possible way to not fight Tom, even retire.
The White House event is now being touted as a historic UFC showcase, putting the pieces back in action. Dana White and Donald Trump are apparently planning a stacked card with big names, and Jones versus Aspinall is toward the top of their wish list. There is no information yet on contracts, timetables, or formal announcements, but public teasing has begun. Fans saw Jones's subtle approbation when he replied to a poster advertising the proposed bout with, "I like it." He hadn't said anything else before delivering the real message. I will make you beg within the octagon.
I'll just come out and ask you, do you think he's ducking Tom Aspinall?
No. Jon Jones, I said it a million times, I'll say it again. He's never ducked anybody other than that one goofy time with the Chael Sonnen thing. He's never ducked anybody. And, I think the reality is whatever changed his mind with this fight, I don't know, you'd have to ask him that. But, he's 38 years old and I don't know.
Do you think if it was someone like Alex Pereira, he would fight them? And it's maybe Tom that he specifically doesn't fancy the matchup, doesn't fancy the age difference?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to these questions. Only he does. We had the fight done. Listen, our job is to make the biggest fights we can make and the fights that the fans want to see. And that's what we try to do. But the minute somebody starts talking about retirement, my philosophy on that, you should do it.
Whether it was boldness or bait, it sparked conversation. Aspinall has not commented explicitly, but he has made his thoughts about the rivalry clear for months. He never saw beating Jones as a way to establish a legacy. It was to prove something to himself. The indisputable title means less when you didn't earn it by defeating the guy who already had it. Aspinall admitted, "I thought I was a champion regardless." What he desired was a true ending, a true passing of the torch, and a genuine conflict. That opportunity may be available again. Jones has returned to the testing pool and is considering a comeback in 2026, so there is plenty of time to properly plan the fight.
Think of the star Aspinall would have been if we just would have got that fight over with right away. Think of the star Ngannou still would have been for this company if you just would have had that fight and moved it on. And then you have an epic rivalry between those two, Aspinall and Ngannou. Like the years and years of amazing heavyweight fights could have been happening if Jon Jones just wasn't a petulant child, and if the UFC wasn't just the, oh no, it's fine, he's just finding himself, just so annoying. And so
in the interim, Aspinall is expected to defend his belt against someone else. Cyril Gane remains the most likely candidate, but the White House card would provide the ideal setting for Jones' return. Trump's engagement will draw significant political attention. Equal sign. Dana White will advocate for fireworks, and Jones versus Aspinall, with their unfinished business, has all the makings of a historic event.
Since the fight will never happen, gun to my head, I would have said Jon Jones will beat him right now. Tom has never been pushed into those championship rounds. That first time you feel that, I gotta get up off that stool after the third round. You needed to fight Tom now, when he doesn't have that experience, especially as Jon Jones.
Until contracts are signed, it is only speculation, but the timing, testing, and threats all point in the same way. After leaving the division and failing to provide Aspinall with the deserved crowning fight, Jon Jones is now the one seeking attention. He's doing it through fan art, pithy statements, and ominous messages. And this time, Aspinall already has the belt. Leon Edwards is getting strong criticism from UK fight fans after commenting on the much-discussed hypothetical battle between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall.
Why is that fight not happening? Well, it could be for two reasons. It's either that Jon Jones is using a strategy to have more money. You could say it, GSP. Go for it. Come on, say what you want to say. But I think that's why he's doing it. If he's doing it just to hold the title, to serve the wave, this is not. And if he has no intention of coming back, that's not right, But if he does it for as a strategy to have more money, I can understand why. But I think that the UFC needs to do something.
The welterweight champion recently appeared alongside British boxing icon Carl Froch at the IBA Pro 7 event in Istanbul, Turkey, where he was asked directly who would win in a prime versus prime matchup between the UFC's long-reigning light heavyweight king and England's current heavyweight champion. Edwards answered without hesitation, "Prime, I'm going with Jon Jones." "Yeah, 100%. He went on to say, "I highly recommend Jon Jones. I believe he is the best to have done it."
But what did you make of it when you heard Jon calling out Alex of all people?
I think he does do this because, Alex Perez now he's like big star in the UFC, everybody loves him, so he know what he's doing, but I believe he should to fight against Aspinall, but I think he a little bit afraid of him, because Aspinall is someone who can really stop him and beat him.
Yeah,
but that's why I think that he believes if he can,
Despite the favor to Jones, Edwards noted that things would be different in a current game with Aspinall, who is arguably at his physical and technical prime. Tom will suffice for the time being. He is the guy now, Edward explained. He explained that Aspinall's speed, movement, and knockout power would pose significant challenges for Jones if they fought today. I believe that with his speed and power, as well as the way he moves in there, he would have caused difficulties. For Jon Jones, it could have been a nice fight, but it wasn't simply Edward's praise for Jones that sparked outrage. Jon Jones avoided fighting Aspinall because he dismissed the increasing sentiment. Edwards didn't mince words and declared he definitely did not duck the fight with Aspinall. That comment, in particular, enraged British MMA fans, many of whom have been outspoken in their conviction that Jones had opportunities to fight Aspinall, but purposefully avoided them.
But it's the legacy. To be able to go to the heavyweight division, take out everyone, and then take out the Jon Jones legend, you know, and then go back to even beating a few of these new school guys, will literally put Tom Aspinall as the GOAT of the heavyweight division.
A clip of Edwards' interview soon circulated. Online, UFC fans from the United Kingdom, particularly those who favor Tom Aspinall, left scathing comments. "Leon, you little traitor," one fan remarked. Another person responded with "traitor bum." Dozens of comments criticized Edwards of supporting an American boxer over a fellow Brit. According to one supporter, the British no longer claim him. "Wow, Leon, you are a low-key traitor. WTF. Leon's a bum," someone other wrote. "Leon hasn't a clue about fighting," said another unhappy commenter.
Not wanting to fight, you think, or do you think it's a combination?
Well, I can tell you some stuff about the money situation, but I'm not sure I can say it on camera, so I will tell you that after. I think I think I'm a bad matchup for him, to be honest. And I think he knows it.
My opinion, I think it's a huge risk.
Yeah.
It's a huge risk. You're younger, you're athletic, you hit hard, you pose problems. We don't have much data on.
The indignation indicates how strongly fans are supporting Aspinall at the moment. The heavyweight champion has not only become a symbol of British MMA pride, but he is also widely regarded as the rightful heir to Jones' heavyweight title. When Jon Jones announced his retirement in June 2025, the UFC promoted Aspinall from interim to undisputed champion.
I would even say this, and I don't know if this is controversial or not, but I would say that Jon Jones ducked Tom Aspinall so hard that he went through self-destructive measures just to avoid a fight with this man. That's how good Tom Aspinall is. And everyone you're going to list off is going to get beat.
Well, we'll see.
But Aspinall confessed that the moment was incomplete without a clash with Jones. He phrased it this way: "I would have rather taken it from Jon Jones, the undisputed champion." Aspinall's meteoric rise began when he stepped in on short notice to fight Sergey Pavlovich when Jones withdrew from a scheduled fight against Stipe Miocic in late 2023 due to injury. Aspinall defeated Pavlovich in the opening round and subsequently defended the interim belt against Curtis Blades. Fans and analysts expected a unification fight with Jones, but it never happened. Jones kept quiet after defeating Miocic, and despite UFC President Dana White promoting the bout, nothing occurred. Then came the unimpressive announcement: Jon Jones was retiring. Only weeks later, Jones has re-entered the USADA testing pool, making him eligible to compete again in 2026. The comeback coincides with a suspected UFC event scheduled for July 4th at the White House, which is supported by Donald Trump and Dana White. Jones responded warmly to fan-made posters foreshadowing a fight with Aspinall at the White House, saying, "I like it." He then issued a scary warning, saying, "I'll make you beg inside the octagon."
Donald Trump just said that he wants to hold a UFC event at the White House next year for America's 250th birthday. And not just any UFC event, he wants to hold a championship UFC event at the White House next year. And this got me thinking, what a perfect time for Jon Jones to come out of retirement and fight Tom Aspinall at the White House next year for America's 250th birthday. What is more patriotic, what is more American than the best?
Jones' contradictory signals have confused and upset many fans and fighters. Michael Bisping, a fellow British fighter and former UFC champion, went into detail about the incident. "I'm not sure if John's laughing, being foolish, taking the piss, or being serious." According to Bisping, the White House announcement may have served as a catalyst. Of course, Trump is discussing a battle in the White House. Perhaps that's it. I don't think it's that. I believe he would love to fight at the White House, as I am sure every combatant will.
What do you make of Tom Aspinall and all the things that he's been saying about?
I think he should go on and have a wonderful career.
Do you think that he needs you?
No, I think he needs me. When you want something bad enough, and if you get it, it could be the worst thing that could ever happen to you. I love being the ultimate troll. He's not in a position to like excite me. Because if I whoop his ass, it's going to be the next guy. There's going to be a whole new fan base of somebody who everybody believes in.
Bisping also stressed how important a Jones-Aspinall matchup would be. Of all, it's him against Tom Aspinall. England versus the United States, 1776 all over again at the White House. Unbelievable. Of course, that should be the primary priority, correct? He stated, but even Bisping wasn't sure if Jones was actually planning for a comeback or just testing the waters. Is that actually what's happening? Is it just that they want to fight in the White House? Or has something else changed? The fact that he has re-entered the testing pool indicates that he is not playing around.
To retire Jon Jones without even fighting him. He said that nearly a year ago today. Tom Aspinall said those words. And never have words aged better in the MMA world than Tom Aspinall saying that about.
The timing of Jones's comeback attempt has contributed to the idea that he is avoiding a frontal challenge by Aspinall. Matt Brown, a UFC veteran, said that it looked like ducking, given that Jones only returned after Aspinall had already moved on and begun preparing his next title defense. Many fans agree, pointing out how Jones appeared to put off any confrontation with Aspinall until it was too late. Leon Edwards' defense of Jones did not work well in that environment, although he acknowledged Aspinall's skill and current dominance. Fans saw his praise for Jones and disregard of the ducking narrative as betrayal. In the UK MMA scene, where fighters like Aspinall are regarded as embodying the new era of British success, siding with Jones, especially amid charges of avoiding a battle, elicited strong reactions.
The fight will never happen. Gun to my head, I would have said Jon Jones will beat him right now. Tom has never been pushed into those championship rounds. That first time you feel that, I gotta get up off that stool after the third round. You needed to fight Tom now when he doesn't have that experience, especially as Jon.
The Fury also demonstrates how seriously British supporters view Aspinall's status as champion. He isn't merely a belt holder. To many, he represents untapped potential, a championship reign that may last years, and of a fighter who has not used shortcuts to get where he is. The fact that Jones ducked Aspinall has implications beyond the game. It feels like a repudiation of Aspinall's legitimacy. And when one of Britain's most well-known champions appears to unwaveringly support Jones, the fan base automatically reacts defensively. So what do you think? Please share your thoughts below and subscribe for future updates.